just some stats to share with you to get some context building going. At any typical organization, at any point in given time, you have about 10% of your workforce that is actually looking for another challenge. So 10% of your people are looking for a new job. You might actually be one of them. Then there's about 40% of people in an organization that are actually waking up and hoping that the office is on fire. They are hoping to God that somebody calls them and says, listen, you don't need to come into work because we caught fire, all right? Then the majority of the organization, about 80% of the people, are sometimes really happy coming to work, and sometimes they're not having a great week, you know. And then there's about 20% of your workforce that is actively engaged. They're coming in happy, they're waking up, and they're looking forward to go to work as well. And as you can imagine, that you and me, we can be one of these at any given week or any given day. Hopefully we're not that 40% too much, because then we're in trouble. But sometimes what happens is that people are coming into the workplace, they're taking their heart out, and they're just working the job description. I come in, I do my 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever the working hours are, and then when it is time to go home, I'll take my heart and I become a different person as soon as I go home. And as some of the speakers said before me as well, imagine a workplace where you do not have those numbers, those typical numbers. Imagine the workplace where the engaged workforce is more than 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. Now, these are people that I would love to be working with. These are people that I want to be part of as well. And that sets up the context of a high-performing workplace. Knowing your numbers and then working with these numbers as you continue along. Now, where does the problem start? Or where is the big issue? And it really is the two biggest reasons why people leave their workplace. It is because they don't like you, if you're a boss, or they're actually not feeling appreciated. And these are number one and number two. A lot of the time we think it might be money. It might actually be work-life balance, and it is. But it's not the top three. It's not the top two. It is really the relationship that they have with their boss, and then if they feel that on a daily basis, are they really just getting appreciated or not? And these are the two biggest reasons that people will leave their workplace. Now, when we look at the ingredients of a high-performing work culture, there's really 4 building blocks to that. The blocks are leadership, direction, ethos, and the skills cluster. Now, the first one we already had a look at, which was, where is the north? And when you are not aware of what the true north is, then you will have people pointing towards a number of different directions. As the direction cluster contains, you need to ensure that everybody not only understands the vision, but also identifies with what that vision actually means for them as well. If the vision is about customer centricity, what does that mean to the person who's at the reception? What does that mean to the person in HR? What does that mean to the person in the culture department or procurement? That same vision should hold true to every single person in the organization, and they need to be able to understand what their contribution is to that vision. As we continue to build along, the second one is the skills cluster. And it is really about bringing out the best in your people. Really finding out what are the relational skills and the professional skills. And this is where the concept of the left and the right brain come in. The left brain, figuratively speaking, is responsible for math, science, logic, and rational thought process. The right brain is responsible for emotional connections, poetry, art, music, and all of those beautiful, nice, huggy-feely things. The intelligence in your left brain is measured by something called IQ. You might have taken an IQ test at a certain point in your life. The intelligence in the right brain is measured by something called EQ, which is your emotional intelligence coefficient. And we have a saying which refers to IQ gets you hired, EQ gets you promoted. There's social research that indicates that over 90% of your life success, not just work success, but life success actually comes from the right brain capability. It is not only knowing the technical side of your job, but really how you manage the relationships up, down, and sideways and across the organization and in your life as well. And when you can strike that balance, then you've fixed your skills cluster as well. One of the other great skills to have is listening. And one of the speakers actually pointed out to the concept of mindful listening. Now, well, we do have 5 different levels of listening. And you might actually be exhibiting one of them right now. The first one is actually ignoring. So there's people walking around in the room, they can hear my voice, but they are not having any communication done for them. The second one is actually pretending. There's people looking right at me right now, and they're thinking about something else. They're thinking about coffee, they're thinking about lunch, they're thinking about something else, the email's piling up while they're listening to me. But you're looking directly in the face, and you're saying everything is good to go. The third one is selective. So you are tuning in and out of a message as your mind is wandering. The fourth one is attentive, where your mind is completely fixed to the message. You're listening to me attentively. And the last one is empathetic, which is your mind and your heart are in tune with the message. And the way that I differentiate number 4 and number 5 is whenever people are talking to you about their kids and how they've had a very busy day, but they go home to their kids and it really brightens up the day, people who have kids or love kids will listen to that differently than people who don't. And that always has been, for me, an analogy or a description on what the difference is between level 4 and level 5. By a show of hands, can you tell me if you are doing most of the time number 2 listening? Raise your hand if you feel that you do number 2 most of the time. No one? All right. What about number 3? Raise your hand if you think it's number 3. And I know you do number 4 and number 5 sometimes, but most of the time 3. So it seems that we have a consensus, okay? Now, raise your hand if you want people to do number 4 with you, at the minimum. Oh, wow. So you are listening to people selectively, but you actually want people to be attentive to you. Why? Because we're a special bunch of people. So you get in life what you give to others. If you want people to be mindful to you when they're listening to you, you need to do the exact same thing to you when you are being listened to as well. You know? So this is a great way for you to be able to fill up that skills cluster. When we come to the leadership side, now this in itself is a huge conversation, worth having 2 days over, not a couple of minutes over. But the leadership cluster is really about how do you become visible? Do you walk the talk? Are you always there? And visibility is not about physical visibility. It is about being there as far as the support is concerned. Are you giving the situational leadership to the people when they require it, where they require it? Because different people need you to be different things. Some employees will need you to be a coach. Some people will need you to be a moral support for them. And some will just need you to be a motivator. It is about knowing what your people need from you in the team, and then really delivering on that promise. And that takes us to the concept of the parachute packer. Has anybody skydived? Has anybody done that? Oh, we have a couple of people. Oh, 3, 4, actually, fantastic. So would you allow me to pack your parachute if you're jumping out? Probably not, because I don't have that skill, right? So this is how, and that's a smart thing to do. So this is how life works. There's parachute packers in your life. People that you depend on to come through for you. Now the question is, do you know them? And the bigger question is, are you a parachute packer for other people in life? And if the answer is no, then there's something missing in that equation. And the same applies not just in life, but in your workplace as well. People that are reporting to you, are you their parachute packer? Are you the parachute packer for your boss? And this is where you need to kind of build up. The ethos cluster is really where we become a team of teams. It is about coming together and really creating that culture where you become an organization that is built on trust. Now, I am going to share very quickly the trust equation with you. I'm more than happy to go over this in more detail in one of the breaks if you want to seek me out. Trust is the credibility, the intimacy, and the reliability that you have divided by how selfish you are. If you want to figure out what the trust is in any given relationship, plug your 1 to 10 numbers in, and you will have an exact number and a plan to be able to increase that trust. Now, if you do want to have a plan, there's a very simple plan for you to be able to create that trust. Make sure that people are there and they actually believe that they're listened to, understand. You're there to actually not respond, but to actually understand what they're saying. Building up and understanding their aims and goals, helping you reach them, making sure that they understand that this is you trying to do it for them. You are on their side, not the other way around, and that you can actually trust them. Ultimately, it is about really creating an environment where you are walking around, looking for reasons to congratulate people on doing a great job, rather than walking around looking for reasons to say people that you are making mistakes. And if you've done that, you're on your way to creating a high-performing culture. Thank you so much for your time.